The evening of the 19th of November, 2012, less than a week after Jersey's 6th birthday, saw her mother depart for her usual evening shift at the local supermarket. On such nights, if other family members were unavailable, Jersey's mother would sometimes entrust the girls to her best friend, who readily agreed to look after them, especially since her own children were playmates with Jersey and her sister. That night, Jersey's mother concluded her shift around 11:30 p.m., collected her daughters, and brought them home to bed. Jersey quickly drifted off to sleep, but her younger sister expressed a desire to sleep with their mother, so she took the child to her own room. The following morning, the 20th of November, 2012, Jersey's mother awoke around 6:30 a.m. with the intention of preparing her daughter for school. However, a chilling realization struck her. Jersey was not in her bedroom. A frantic search of the entire house confirmed Jersey was nowhere to be found. Panicked, she telephoned her own mother, relaying the terrifying news. Her mother, perhaps trying to offer a glimmer of hope, suggested Jersey might be playing hide-and-seek and advised her to check closets and other confined spaces. Jersey's mother meticulously scoured every corner of the house once more, yet Jersey remained elusive. Stepping outside, she spotted her friend on the front porch and, clinging to the hope that Jersey might have woken early and gone to her house, inquired if she had seen the child. Given how much time Jersey spent at their home, it seemed plausible. However, her friend had not seen Jersey and immediately joined the desperate search. They scoured the immediate neighborhood, and the friend also checked inside her own residence, but there was still no trace of Jersey. At this point, Jersey's mother, consumed by full-blown panic, made the critical decision to call the police. Officers arrived within minutes, commencing their own search. They thoroughly checked Jersey's house to confirm her absence and then obtained permission from her friend to search her home as well. Meanwhile, other officers began to canvass nearby streets, considering the possibility that Jersey might have wandered off. During their search, they observed a small, vacant house adjacent to Jersey's mother's property. The officers decided to investigate this unoccupied dwelling, primarily because one of its doors was slightly ajar. After confirming no one resided there, they promptly requested a search warrant. Investigators considered that Jersey might have inadvertently entered the structure, and a judge swiftly granted them permission to enter. The officers meticulously searched each room, finding no sign of Jersey until one officer decided to check a closet within a bedroom. What he discovered was truly horrifying. Inside lay Jersey's lifeless body. It was immediately apparent she was no longer alive. Her clothes were missing, and initial observations suggested strangulation as the cause of death. The body was carefully handed over to medical examiners, and the police formally launched their criminal investigation. When questioned, Jersey's mother disclosed that she had left one of her front doors unlocked that night. She explained this was a common practice, as her boyfriend also worked night shifts and sometimes came by afterward to stay at her place. Since he didn't possess a key, leaving the door ajar meant he wouldn't need to awaken her. She further noted that he had not come over that particular night. Police immediately considered him a potential suspect, reasoning that since someone had transported Jersey to the abandoned house, it was likely she knew and trusted this individual. Her mother's boyfriend was known to get along well with Jersey and her younger sister, spending considerable time playing with them, and both girls evidently trusted him. As investigators looked into his whereabouts that night, they unearthed a significant and unsettling detail from Jersey's past. About a year earlier, her biological father had faced severe charges. In December 2011, while Jersey was staying at her father's house with his new wife, a visiting family friend heard a child crying from behind a closed door. Curious and concerned, the friend opened the bedroom door to investigate. What she witnessed was profoundly shocking. Jersey was seated with a dog collar around her leg, tied to a dresser, in a room cluttered with dirty clothes and other items. Horrified, the friend freed Jersey and immediately reported the incident to the police. Officers swiftly arrested Jersey's father and his wife. During questioning, they bizarrely claimed they had been tying Jersey up at night for her own safety, asserting she would sometimes sleepwalk and attempt to retrieve medications or even leave the house in the middle of the night. When pressed on why they didn't simply use child safety gates, Jersey's father vaguely replied that they couldn't afford them. However, as the investigation progressed, police discovered that her father had been using drugs and somehow possessed enough money to purchase them. despite being unemployed while raising 2 other children with his wife. Investigators then spoke directly with Jersey, and she bravely revealed the true reason behind the cruel practice. One night, she had gone into the kitchen and taken a few pieces of pie and other snacks without permission. To punish her, her father and stepmother decided to tie her up. Jersey also recounted being forced to sleep on the floor in the bedroom on occasion, without even being allowed to use the bathroom. In the end, Jersey's father received an 18-year sentence, and his wife was sentenced to 12 years behind bars. Since that time, Jersey had been residing with her mother, who, shockingly, had been entirely unaware of these abuses, as Jersey had been too terrified to disclose them to anyone. This disturbing history naturally captured the detectives' attention, but they quickly established that Jersey's father could not have been involved in her disappearance and murder, as he had been incarcerated since his arrest and would not have been able to be at his daughter's home that night. Investigators then shifted their focus to all known sex offenders living within a few miles of the crime scene, but each provided a verifiable alibi, leading police to concentrate on individuals within Jersey's immediate social circle. Around this time, the medical examiners completed a preliminary report, confirming that the cause of death was indeed strangulation. They also found evidence of sexual assault and collected biological material from the perpetrator. This crucial sample was immediately sent to the lab for DNA analysis. Meanwhile, detectives revisited Jersey's mother's boyfriend. He asserted that he had been working at a store that night, and his shift did not conclude until early in the morning. Police reviewed the store's CCTV footage, which corroborated his claim. However, a potential complication emerged. Detectives discovered he had taken a break during his shift. Theoretically, he could have committed the crime during this window, as the store was only a few minutes away from Jersey's home. Yet his co-workers assured police that he had not left the store during his break, ultimately leading detectives to rule him out as a suspect. During their conversation with the boyfriend, he mentioned an intriguing detail. Around 3 a.m., a man named Zachary, Jersey's mother's neighbor and the husband of her best friend, had entered the store. Zachary had claimed to be suffering from stomach pains, purchased some medicine, and then left. Given that the crime appeared to have been committed around this very time, police found this account quite suspicious. They had already spoken to Zachary and his wife and searched their home, finding no initial evidence. While Zachary hadn't raised any red flags previously, this new information about his late-night trip prompted detectives to question him again. Zachary reiterated that he had indeed woken up in the middle of the night with stomach pain, and finding no medication at home, decided to visit a store just a few hundred yards away. Upon his return, he eventually fell asleep again and woke around 6:30 a.m. to prepare his older son for school. He willingly provided police with his fingerprints, a DNA sample, and the clothes he had worn to the store that night, insisting he would never harm Jersey. Initially, detectives believed he was being truthful. While awaiting the DNA test results, police decided to delve deeper into Zachary's background, uncovering a few unsettling details. They discovered he possessed an extensive criminal record, though primarily for nonviolent, relatively minor offenses. More disturbingly, Zachary also had a troubled past, having reportedly suffered various forms of abuse over the years from family members, including his stepfather, biological mother, and brother. 13 reports had been filed by concerned individuals who noticed the abuse and sought to intervene, though it remains unclear what specific actions the police took in response. Detectives then spoke with Jersey's mother to learn more about Zachary. She shared that he and his wife frequently helped look after the children, and Zachary got along wonderfully with them. Jersey and her sister affectionately called him Uncle Zach, considering him practically family, and the girls visited his house almost daily. The mother also mentioned that both Zachary and his wife possessed keys to her home. Given Jersey's apparent complete trust in Zachary, which would have led her to follow him anywhere without question, detectives began to seriously consider his potential involvement. They also grew highly suspicious of his late-night store visit, theorizing it could have been a calculated move to create an alibi with witnesses and CCTV footage. When detectives brought Zachary in for another interview, he abruptly declared he would not speak without his lawyer. This sudden shift caught investigators off guard, especially since he had been fully cooperative just recently, readily complying with every request. With no solid evidence against Zachary yet, All the investigators could do was await the DNA test results and continue their search for new leads. Then, an unexpected twist occurred. Despite his initial refusal, Zachary telephoned the police, stating he was now willing to take a polygraph test to clear his name. Detectives immediately arranged the test, but the results were not in Zachary's favor. The polygraph operator determined that many of his responses showed clear signs of deception, only deepening the detectives' suspicions, though they still required concrete evidence. They also discovered that Zachary's sudden decision to take the polygraph was prompted by his wife, who had apparently begun to doubt his honesty. It turned out she had warned him that if he refused to cooperate with the police, she would take the children and leave him. Therefore, this sudden change wasn't genuinely about Zachary attempting to clear his name after all. Soon after failing the polygraph, Zachary took another suspicious step, posting on social media that he had made a huge mistake that would ruin his life. To detectives, this seemed like further confirmation of his guilt, yet they still needed irrefutable proof to move forward. The lab results arrived on the 26th of November, 6 days after the murder, and coincidentally, on the very day of Jersey's funeral, which Zachary, along with his wife, planned to attend. Forensic experts had successfully extracted a DNA profile from the biological material found on the victim's body and had analyzed all of Zachary's clothing. The results confirmed the detectives' gravest fears. Nearly all of Zachary's clothes contained traces of Jersey's DNA, and the biological material on her body unequivocally matched his DNA. Armed with this crucial evidence, detectives obtained a warrant for his arrest and apprehended him right outside the church, just as the ceremony was about to begin. During the interrogation, Zachary continued to deny his involvement, insisting he had nothing to do with it. However, when detectives presented him with the irrefutable lab results, he ultimately confessed to the horrific crime. According to his account, Zachary genuinely woke up with a stomachache that night and went looking for medicine but couldn't find any at home. So he decided to drop by Jersey's mom's place. For him and his wife, this wasn't unusual, as they would often stop by to borrow medicine from her cabinet. Besides, Zachary knew she usually left one of the doors unlocked, so he wouldn't even need to wake her. Once inside, he claimed to notice that Jersey's bedroom door was slightly ajar and decided to enter. According to Zachary, he had no clear motive and insisted he didn't understand why he went in there. He woke Jersey up and asked her to come with him. Trusting him like family, Jersey didn't hesitate and followed. Zachary then led her to an abandoned house nearby, where he committed his monstrous crime and left her body in a closet. Afterward, he calmly walked to a store, bought some stomach medicine, and returned home, where he was able to fall asleep without a care. The next morning, he joined the search for Jersey as if nothing had happened, feigning worry and eager to help find her. Zachary also maintained that he hadn't planned the crime, asserting it all happened on impulse, though detectives harbored doubts about this particular claim. Still, they had no reason to question the rest of his confession, as he provided many highly accurate details that had not been made public at that point. The police had kept almost all information under wraps, even from Jersey's mother, so there was no way Zachary could have known those specifics otherwise. Ultimately, he was charged with murder and held in jail awaiting trial, with the prosecution announcing they would seek the death penalty. His attorney, faced with the confession and overwhelming evidence, did not attempt to argue Zachary's innocence. Instead, his focus was on securing a life sentence rather than the death penalty. It is worth noting that soon after Zachary's incarceration, another inmate attacked him, though he was not seriously injured, and since then, he has been under increased protection. The trial commenced in the spring of 2015, 2.5 years after the murder. Since Zachary never recanted his confession, the proceedings moved very quickly. He was found guilty and sentenced to death, with 2 additional life sentences and an extra 20 years. Before the sentencing, Zachary addressed Jersey's family, expressing deep regret for his actions and hoping they might one day forgive him. However, his apology did not appear to have much effect on them. As often happens, executions are almost always delayed for many years, and Zachary's case proved no exception. He made several attempts to appeal his sentence, initially claiming that his first lawyer had failed to exclude certain pieces of evidence and that the jury selection process had been flawed. His new attorney also argued that Zachary suffered from severe mental health issues and developmental delays, asserting his mental capacity was equivalent to that of an 8-year-old, meaning he should not be held fully responsible for his actions. Interestingly, even Zachary's own mother, who had mistreated him for years, came forward in his defense. In an interview, she stated she still loved her son and hoped his lawyers could overturn his sentence. Zachary's wife, who was also the best friend of Jersey's mother, supported his appeal as well, despite having previously condemned his actions. But despite these efforts, the appeal was denied. Independent experts concluded that while Zachary did exhibit developmental challenges, he was fully capable of understanding his actions and knew he was committing a serious crime. Currently, Zachary remains in prison, still attempting to appeal his sentence, with the last developments in his case occurring in early 2024. However, his lawyers have yet to convince the court to overturn the death penalty, and it seems increasingly unlikely that the situation will ever change. The Jersey Bridgman case resonated deeply within Arkansas and across the nation, serving as a chilling reminder of the vulnerabilities of children and the potential for devastating betrayal. The prior abuse Jersey suffered, coupled with her ultimate murder, ignited discussions and re-evaluations of child protective services. It highlighted the profound challenges inherent in monitoring children removed from abusive homes and ensuring their long-term safety, prompting urgent calls for more robust oversight and intervention strategies to prevent such tragedies from recurring. The crime also left an indelible mark on the Bentonville community, fostering a heightened sense of vigilance among residents and reinforcing the importance of neighborhood watch programs and comprehensive child safety initiatives. While no legal outcome can ever truly heal the profound wounds inflicted by such a horrific crime, the conviction and sentencing of Zachary Holley brought a measure of justice for Jersey Bridgman and her surviving family members. The case stands as a testament to the unwavering dedication of law enforcement and the judicial system in pursuing accountability for even the most unspeakable acts. As for Jersey's mother, she eventually married the man she was dating at the time of the tragedy, and they have since welcomed a daughter together. She often expresses her regret that this little girl will never get to know Jersey or experience what a wonderful older sister she could have been. The memory of Jersey Bridgman endures as a poignant symbol of innocence, lost and a tragic reminder of the ongoing imperative to protect and advocate for every child, with her story continuing to be a powerful, albeit painful, lesson in the critical need for vigilance, intervention, and unwavering commitment to child safety. The case of Summer Cook, a young mother from Logan, Ohio, is a deeply unsettling chronicle of domestic strife that escalated into a shocking act of murder. Her abrupt disappearance in March 2011 rapidly evolved from a perplexing missing persons report into a full-blown homicide investigation, exposing a tangled web of possessive control, desperate measures, and calculated deception that left both her community and her immediate family reeling. Summer Joanne Cook, born on the 31st of December, 1985, spent her formative years in the quiet town of Logan, Ohio. She grew up within a large, devoutly religious family, their active participation in the local church making them a well-recognized fixture in the community. Summer was remembered for her open, genuine personality and a naturally warm demeanor that allowed her to effortlessly forge friendships. Throughout her school days, she pursued various extracurriculars, including ballet, playing in the jazz band, and taking part in theatrical productions. During her high school years, Summer met William through their shared church activities. Despite residing on the same street, their paths hadn't significantly converged before this. Their connection blossomed into a romantic relationship, quickly leading to their decision to marry. Over the next several years, Summer and William expanded their family, welcoming 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. They settled close to William's parents, who offered almost daily assistance with childcare. William's father, in addition to his pastoral duties, also managed a modest construction business. At one point, the entire extended family relocated to Florida after the father secured a construction contract there. However, their ventures didn't unfold as planned, prompting their return to Logan a few years later. In 2010, Summer made the difficult but resolute decision to divorce William, obtaining sole custody of their children. She then moved back into her childhood home with her parents. Because her parents lived on the same street as William's family, he and his relatives maintained regular access to the children. By the spring of 2011, at 25 years old, Summer devoted nearly all her waking hours to nurturing her 3 young children, who were then 5, 3, and 2 years old. This intensive commitment precluded her from securing full-time employment, so she worked part-time as a cleaner at a local bank, merely a few minutes' drive from her home. Despite her demanding schedule, Summer harbored ambitious plans for her future. She intended to enroll in college, pursue higher education, and ultimately secure a more financially stable career. Around this time, she also began a new romantic relationship with Adam, a local handyman. On the evening of the 22nd of March, 2011, Summer commenced her typical night shift at the bank, scheduled to conclude around 11:20 p.m. Before heading home, she exchanged several text messages with her boyfriend, Adam. Abruptly, their conversation halted mid-sentence. Initially, Adam surmised she might simply be preoccupied or running behind at work. A short while later, he tried calling her, but Summer's phone went unanswered. Growing increasingly uneasy, Adam decided to walk over to the bank and investigate. Upon his arrival, Adam immediately noticed his car, which Summer had used for her commute, was still parked outside. Given that her shift had ended almost half an hour earlier, his concern deepened. This was highly unusual, as Summer consistently adhered to her schedule. He then proceeded to the bank's back entrance, which she always used for her shifts, and his gaze fell upon some items behind a dumpster. Her iPod, car keys, and the battery from her cell phone scattered on the ground. This alarming discovery compelled Adam to instantly contact Summer's parents. They confirmed Summer had not returned home and rushed to the bank. After verifying the items indeed belonged to her, they promptly alerted the police. To their astonishment, Summer's parents soon learned they weren't the first to contact law enforcement. Just half an hour before their call, another report had been filed. 2 women, out for an evening jog, had run past the bank and witnessed a horrific event. They saw 2 individuals, their faces concealed by black ski masks, forcibly seize a woman and shove her into a car. The woman struggled desperately, attempting to resist, but she couldn't break free. Simultaneously, another witness nearby attempted to intervene. As he approached, a woman emerged from the vehicle and incapacitated him with pepper spray. She then re-entered the driver's seat and rapidly sped away, carrying the abductors and their victim. The 2 joggers immediately ran to the nearest police station, located only a few blocks away, and reported the abduction. However, instead of mobilizing quickly, the officers reacted with surprising skepticism, seemingly convinced the women had fabricated the entire account. Despite the witnesses' urgent pleas to find the kidnapped person, the officers dismissed them, claiming most of their personnel were tied up with traffic stops. Undeterred, the women eventually drove back to the bank about 20 minutes later. To their dismay, not a single police officer was present. They decided to remain and wait. Officers finally arrived almost an hour later, displaying little urgency, as if nothing serious had transpired. When the husband of one of the joggers, now present, began to demand action, the police responded with hostility and aggression. Eventually, officers did take action, identifying the likely victim as Summer. Witnesses also provided a description of the getaway vehicle, a white sedan. Police then issued an alert for the car and proceeded to interview Summer's relatives, hoping they might offer insight into anyone who might wish her harm. Delving deeper, investigators unearthed additional troubling details concerning William's father. Approximately a year prior to Summer's disappearance, he had established his own church and a non-profit organization ostensibly aimed at helping the homeless and dispossessed. His publicly noble plans involved constructing affordable housing. To fund this ambitious project, he began selling lottery tickets, reportedly amassing several $100,000. However, no homes were ever built, and no ticket purchasers received refunds, with William's father offering no explanation for the substantial funds collected. Around the same time, he lost his license as a priest. While the precise reasons for this were not made public, it further fueled suspicions surrounding his character. Just months before Summer vanished, the family faced yet another significant setback. They lost their home and were evicted. During the family's final days in their old house, Summer went there to retrieve her remaining personal belongings. She brought Adam along to assist with loading items into her car, and anticipating potential conflict with her ex, husband's family, she requested a police officer be present. Her concerns proved justified. William's father immediately became aggressive, ordering Adam off his property. Even with an officer present, he threatened to shoot and assault Adam. When the officer intervened to de-escalate the situation, William's father reportedly lost control, attempting to tackle the officer, which led to his arrest and a subsequent suspended sentence. Investigators also uncovered unsettling insights into William's mother. After William's birth, she was unable to bear more children, a profoundly devastating experience for her. As a result, she developed an intense attachment to her grandchildren, treating them almost as if they were her own. In fact, she had openly stated to others that if anything ever happened to William and Summer, she intended to assume full custody of the children. Summer's parents provided investigators with her personal journal, its contents revealing a heartbreaking account of William's pervasive control and escalating aggression. Summer described feeling like a captive in her own home, unable to make any move without his consent, the relentless pressure casting her life as a continuous nightmare rather than reality. For Summer's immediate family, the entire ordeal delivered an utterly devastating blow. Not only had her 3 young children lost their mother, but the initial actions or glaring inaction by the police department ignited widespread public outrage and intense scrutiny. As established, police were alerted to the abduction mere minutes after it took place, yet they failed to initiate a search or investigation for over an hour. Medical experts later determined that Summer died approximately 45 minutes after being kidnapped, suggesting that a critical window of opportunity may have existed to save her, had law enforcement responded with appropriate speed. Given the detailed witness descriptions of the vehicle, and the fact that the abduction occurred in the evening in a small town with minimal traffic, investigators might have had a chance to intercept William and his parents. Instead, police justified their delay by stating that most of their officers were tied up with something else. What further fueled public anger was the close proximity of the police station just a few hundred yards from the bank. Where the abduction occurred, it would have taken mere minutes to reach the scene, even on foot. Yet, despite multiple witnesses, no immediate aid came to Summer. Another deeply contentious aspect of the case was the plea agreement offered to William's mother. In exchange for her confession and revealing the location of Summer's body, she received a significantly reduced sentence. She testified in court, adhering to her account, and was ultimately sentenced to just 15 years in prison, meaning she could potentially be released as early as 2028. William and his father, in contrast, were both sentenced to life in prison. Since Summer's tragic death, her children have been living with her parents. For the first 6 months after the murder, the grandparents grappled with the agonizing decision of how to deliver the devastating news to the children that they would never see their mother or their paternal grandparents again. The children persistently asked about their mom and their paternal grandparents. Eventually, Summer's parents realized they could not indefinitely conceal the truth. With the support of a child psychologist, they gradually explained what had transpired. At the time, they feared their oldest child might inadvertently learn the truth from classmates, as the story had become widely known throughout Logan. Indeed, strangers would occasionally approach the children in public to express condolences, a heartbreaking reality that even led Summer's grandparents to consider legally changing the children's last names to shield them from being perpetually linked to the tragedy. Today, Summer's children have grown into adulthood, and the family largely remains out of the public eye. William's mother is reportedly scheduled for release in 2028. It remains uncertain whether she will be legally prohibited from contacting her grandchildren, but given the profound complexities and disturbing history of this case, the possibility of her attempting to reconnect with them looms as a future concern.